Good evening. For those of you who are streaming at home, welcome. And those of you who are watching this after the fact from our website, thank you for taking time to learn about the bridge plan. Let me begin with a are we good? Should we want to start over? Okay. Begin with the purpose of tonight's meeting. So first of all, we want to educate the public on the purpose of our comprehensive plan and this bridge plan effort. This is not the beginning and the end of our public engagement on this effort. This is just the beginning. So if you're viewing this at home and you want to get a brief overview and get prepared to do a more thorough review and to prepare any comments or feedback for staff and for the Planning Commission, that is the purpose of this meeting. And if you want to call in with questions or comments, you're also welcome to do that. We have, if you've found the YouTube site, you're streaming from home, we have the opportunity for you to call in and make a comment. There is a 20-second delay, but other than that, we are taking comments in real time. And so we will do our best to accommodate those who want to call in. And so if you know there's a topic that you're interested in and you see that is going to come up, go ahead and call in. We will stop at each segment of the presentation and check to see if there's any call-ins, and then we will put you on to make your comment or ask your question. And you will use this phone number shown and the meeting ID and passcode. And this information will be included in the future slides as well. So if you miss it now, you'll have chances to see it throughout the presentation. The information, the detailed information related to the bridge plan is available on the City of Johnson City website. On the homepage, when you go to johnsoncitytn.org, you'll see a little box at the bottom of this screenshot that says input, and you can click on that and it will take you to some more information about our public engagement process, and also has a link to the web page where you can find all the documents related to this effort. This, if you're looking at the presentation on our website, this image is also hyperlinked to that information. There's the link there that's shown, but also just a pathway from the homepage if you want to go directly to the bridge plan webpage. We encourage everyone to do that. This is really the most important part. Is tonight we're going to go through a very broad overview. This is a very comprehensive and thorough document that covers a lot of detail. We do not have time. We can't be respectful of everyone's time and go into all the minute detail tonight. And we also want to be respectful of people's times and not break this out into multiple meetings. And so what we're doing is giving a brief overview, introducing the topics that are covered, and then directing folks to go, if they see something that's interesting, then go to the website, find the document that is in line with your interest, whether it's one policy or an entire element or all of the elements of the plan. You can find that information on the webpage. We encourage you to do that. Once you access that, if you have a comment or a question and something you want to pass along that you feel needs to be considered for this comprehensive plan extension, then you will email that to me at the email address shown. Okay, so some background on what we are doing. We, as a city, have a comprehensive plan. It was originally adopted as individual elements. There are 8 elements and multiple subplans that combine to make what's called a comprehensive plan, which is the guiding document for the entire city. That document, being 15 years old, is coming to a close, coming to sunset at the end of this year. It's not a hard deadline, but it gives us a timeline for when we need to reconsider and be looking at adoption of another comprehensive plan. The Tennessee State Code gives the authority to cities to develop comprehensive plans. They refer to it as a general plan, and that plan makes recommendations to the city's elected officials and appointed officials on decision making. Once it is adopted by the Planning Commission, then it serves as an advisory document. When it's adopted by the City Commission, then, and that is by ordinance, it becomes a binding document. So Planning Commission advisory, City Commission binding. Any land use decisions that are made must be consistent with the general plan once it's adopted. So what is the bridge plan? Well, the bridge plan is a review of our existing comprehensive plan. We're reviewing the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. We are also assessing those recommendations to determine if they've been completed, to what level they've been implemented, and if they're still relevant. And once that review and assessment is done, then we are looking to readopt and extend the comprehensive plan for another 5 years. It is not a full-scale rewriting of a new comprehensive plan. We are extending the existing comprehensive plan. So why are we doing that? Any good plan, the foundation of any good plan is based on current data. And we do have census data available now. However, the most accurate census data comes at every 10 years after every decennial census. And with the 2020 census taking place right now and coming to a close, we know we will have very current data available in roughly 18 months. We also have a need to maintain a comprehensive plan. So in order to wait until we have the most accurate data available, we need something to bridge that gap. And so the current comprehensive plan is a very well-written document. It is still very relevant. And so that gives us the opportunity to review it, assess it, and readopt it to bridge this gap in time until we can get a full-scale comprehensive plan written. It also provides several benefits. One is by reviewing it and assessing it, we can refocus our efforts. We can create awareness about the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. It can continue to guide decision-making, and it prepares us for the full-scale comprehensive plan, which will be coming up, starting that process really by implementing some of the recommendations you'll hear tonight. It sets us up for a successful full-scale comprehensive plan, but roughly looking at 2 to 3 years from now, we would begin that process, and it may involve hiring consultants, and it will involve a great deal of community engagement as well. And then it also serves to recommit our Planning Commission and our Long-Range Planning Committee and our efforts around long-range planning. The scope of the plan, we have been working on this with a committee of folks, the Bridge Planning Committee, members of our Long-Range Planning Committee of the Regional Planning Commission. We have done a thorough review of all of the elements, all the recommendations, and we've developed what we're calling emerging topics and overarching themes. And that background work was all done over the summer, and we are reviewing and assessing the recommendations as a whole, and we are also offering up some modifications, some refreshing of some of the language, but that is not going to affect the goals and the objectives of the plan. It's only refreshing of the action items and that level of the plan. And so you'll see some of that in the documents. The next step after our review was then to distribute to a long list of partners. The next slide will show you all the folks involved, but when you have elements that are so wide-ranging, including things like economic development and housing and so on, it involves a number of different departments and agencies. So we distributed all of this, all these documents and the elements that make up the bridge plan to our review partners and got their feedback. Tonight is the next step of starting the public engagement process, where we are reaching out from the review partners, now extending it to the general public to get your feedback and questions and comments related to this effort. The next step will then be to take this presentation and any feedback we get and present it to the Regional Planning Commission on November 3rd at their meeting. That will simply be a workshop. There will not be any decisions made. It will be another opportunity for the public to learn about this. And then the same activity will take place with the City Commission the following week. Once the workshops are done, they will move on into the adoption phase. It would go to the Planning Commission for adoption first, and then we go through 3 readings with the City Commission before being fully adopted. The review partners are listed here. You can see it's a very long list. The font size is small because the list is long. And what we did was ask these folks to review each of the elements that were relevant to their concentration or their expertise. And we asked them to use a color code system to highlight the language to determine the level of implementation, if it's implemented or not, and also its relevance. And if there's any new information that needs to be added. And so that color coded system is what you will see when you review these documents. We used a project management software to keep us on course. We've had a very aggressive timeline, and a lot of work has been done by staff and by the Bridge Plan Committee to get us to this point. Meeting regularly, including some weeks with multiple meetings in a week, each meeting being a couple hours long, and been going through this for a number of months. That's the background. The next step is we will be going through each element of the comprehensive plan and reviewing all the main topics that are covered, as well as any proposed modifications. I believe we have someone who's called if they want to state what it is your comment or question. We may have something coming up that will address that, or we may save a longer, lengthier discussion towards the end. But if you want to let us know what item you're interested in, we'll try to address it.
Caller, can you give your name and address, please? Is there someone on the line?
I'm sorry, this is Travis Olinger with Water Sewer. I was just calling to participate.
Okay, I'm just going to mute you for now then. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. First item is the urban growth element. So what we're going to do is just go through the general topics that are covered by the urban growth element. It includes our policy for annexation. It references policies that guide water and sewer extensions. It establishes our urban service area. It promotes infill development. That is something you will hear on several occasions tonight. And it also sets policy for our land use, including zoning and subdivision regulations. Again, the call-in number is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you have any interest in urban growth, go ahead and call in and we'll try to address any questions you have. Some of the key points that we found out through going through this process is that our water and sewer facilities actually extend beyond the urban service area and the urban growth boundary. And so we recognize that we will have a lot more engagement with certain departments as we rewrite our comprehensive plan coming up in a few years. We also have a policy to try to close some of the donut holes where we've had city limits that have developed properties that have remained in the county. And again, focusing efforts on infill development rather than continuing to sprawl out further. Some of the modifications that have been proposed include this idea of urban neighborhood zoning, which is a tool that can be used to promote infill and make it easier to develop within the existing city limits. And we will continue to talk about that throughout the presentation. We also are acknowledging that the state law changed between the time that this was originally written and now, we've had a significant change in how annexations occur. And so we're acknowledging that in the update here. And then we're also referencing that we have developed a de-annexation policy as well. That is it for urban growth. Did we get that caller? No caller? Okay. The next element is the land use element. And this covers a lot of ground. This is a very important element for the planning staff, for the Regional Planning Commission. This guides a lot of their work. And so a lot of the policies around this address compact and infill development that combat sprawl. And so that's for new development. We also have policies that relate to strengthening our existing developments, promoting mixed use development, while protecting our existing commercial areas and industrial areas, which are generally found along our corridors. We also have language in here about urban development, urban commercial, which would include our downtown, and commercial that may be on the fringes of existing neighborhoods, not your typical corridor style commercial development. The language also promotes outdoor recreation and the preservation of our natural resources, again, a recurring theme. It also establishes our land use categories for future land use, as well as a glossary of terms. Some of the key points that really stood out is the need to work with our neighborhoods, to engage with our communities and develop small scale neighborhood plans. Also, we'll continue to support ETSU as they continue to grow. And again, the zoning code changed, recognizing urban neighborhoods and making sure we have zoning that can accommodate that. Also language you'll see throughout protecting our natural beauty, reducing development on our ridge lines and around our creeks. Some of the proposed language revolves around this dynamic between making sure we're making good investments in the public and our public right of way that then supports quality development, private development. And so we'll get into that in a little more detail. But essentially we're looking at, creating comfortable environments so that that encourage good quality development, where someone may be able to leave their home, go into a comfortable environment, walk down to a store, or possibly bike to work, things like that. The zoning codes, I mentioned the urban residential, the urban neighborhood zoning. We also are proposing some zoning code changes around traditional urban form, also referred to as form-based codes. Again, that's about creating a comfortable environment for higher density and walkability. To offset that, we also want to introduce some zoning related to the preservation of open space and conservation areas, and possibly a civic zoning for our public properties. There's also language included to continue to support the efforts around outdoor recreation, and that overlaps with economic development and other elements, parks and recreation as well. And then we've updated our glossary of terms to include a few new terms such as complete streets, form-based codes, road diet, a few others. So you'll see that information in our updated glossary. Any callers for land use? Okay. So diving into our transportation element, transportation is broken up into 4 different categories. The first one is sidewalks. Sidewalk plan, it focuses on maintenance of our existing sidewalk, developing a network that connects the city. It also establishes a prioritization of our sidewalk, our new sidewalk projects, if they are in certain proximity to various assets, schools, parks, bus stops, then they would get a certain score, and those scores combine to create a priority list that can guide new projects, new sidewalk construction. It also references our policy for ramps and crosswalks. The proposed modifications include adopting a fee system. So if a neighborhood does not score highly on the prioritization scoring system, we want to create an avenue so that they could still get city sidewalks and figure out a way where they can help pay for it. Another item that you'll see repeated throughout the presentation is in regards to the review of public projects by the Regional Planning Commission. And you'll see that throughout the presentation. Standardizing our crosswalks is another important one, as shown in this picture. High visibility, zebra style crosswalks are kind of a national standard for safe intersection crossing. And then referencing ADA standards when we talk about ramps and crosswalks, we make sure we're aligning it with ADA standards. Any callers on the sidewalks? The next sub-plan of the transportation element is public transit. This was actually already rewritten and adopted in 2017, so we have not included that in this bridge plan. The next is our bikes and Greenway master plan. Again, developing a network. This network would consist of, various, just like a road network, you would have small neighborhood streets that are safe to bike on. And the next level up, where there's maybe an increased volume of traffic, you would have what's called a share-o, and where there's not enough right-of-way for a full bike lane. Where there is room for a bike lane, we would want to encourage the and develop bike lane facilities. And in addition to that, we would like to see off-street trails or multi-use paths. And so combined, that creates a network that people can utilize to connect throughout the city. It also addresses storage or bike racks, bike lockers, education and awareness, public participation, protecting the environment, and funding. Some of the principal proposed modification, the most overarching proposal, is to fund and draft a bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And so this is really designed to draw a detailed level of attention to bicycle and pedestrian efforts in the city. And that plan should utilize national standards and focus on the 6 E's of bicycle planning. These come from the League of American Bicyclists, which is really the clearinghouse for all things bicycle related in our country. Moving on to the next element, our major thoroughfare plan. This, just like the bicycle plan covers, and the sidewalk plan talks about the network. And we talked about the various classifications where you scale up from residential to arterials and collectors, highways, intersections, and private drives. All of those elements of the network are covered in this sub-plan. It also addresses curb cuts and access, or where we might have limited access, addresses connectivity, and coordinating transportation with land use. The intensity or the volume of traffic directly relates to the intensity of a land use. And then the need for monitoring and continuing to study traffic patterns and collaborating and communicating with our transportation partners, with TDOT and MTPO. Some key points of interest, really around safety and convenience. That's really the main thing. So dispersing traffic, supporting flow, while also identifying hazards, engaging the public. Again, that is a recurring theme that's found throughout these elements, and is something that can be utilized to address concerns with our major thoroughfares. And then to tie it all together with sidewalks and bike lanes, all those elements are found within the right-of-way. And so that's addressed in the major thoroughfare plan as well. Some proposed modifications include cataloging our private drives. We have many developments that include private drives. We've set a goal to identify those and determine the level of design with those private drives. And again, the recurring theme of review by the Planning Commission, making sure that we accommodate bicycle infrastructure in our major thoroughfare construction projects, coordinating with TDOT on potential local control of state highways and routes that run through the city. And then identifying and funding potential road diet projects. And that idea is shown in the image here where you have a 4-lane reduced down to a 3-lane. And that has also been added to our glossary of terms. Any callers on major thoroughfares or transportation in general? Okay. Our economic development element covers a lot of ground as well. Regionalism being a very hot topic is covered, as well as the need to diversify our economy, increase income for opportunities, retaining, attracting young professionals with ETSU here in our backyard. That is a really important one. And the protection of the natural and built environment, those are attractors that attract tourists, they attract businesses. And so maintaining our natural environment and creating a quality built environment are also very important. We know that our medical, technical, and education industries are really the bread and butter, and so continued support for that. Continue to focus on downtown revitalization, though downtown revitalization 15 years ago looks a lot different than it does today, and we have an entire element dedicated to downtown revitalization that we'll get to. And then continued support for manufacturing and tourism. So some of the key points related to those topics include business development, presenting a balanced tax system that is attractive, continuing to partner with our local agencies. So you've got NetRep, JCDA, all of our economic development agencies working in partnership to address and achieve these goals. Continuing to build upon Johnson City's reputation as a regional retail and experience center, nurturing business leadership, continuing the trend of high-speed telecommunications with Bright Ridge installing fiber and other providers that are providing emerging technologies in our community. Aligning education and workforce, that's a really important one to continue to grow our economy. Again, the natural environment being a major drawing factor, need to continue those efforts as they align to economic development. Strategic planning and review, supported JCDA. Those are, as I mentioned before, we have our partners, and they are doing strategic plans and implementing those right now. And Chamber of Commerce, the Johnson City Convention and Visitors Bureau, all have developed strategic plans and are working to achieve their goals. Having welcoming signage, creating a pedestrian environment that is comfortable, having attractive events, family-friendly events, fun events to draw people into downtown. From an industrial side, we want to make sure we clean up and can reuse and redevelop our industrial sites. And then a balance of both urban and rural attractions. That's the beauty of where we live, and the attraction of youth sports events. So those are all key points of interest. Some modifications include just updating our regional partners that I mentioned. Some of that language was out of date. Recognizing Bright Ridge and their investment in high-speed internet. Making sure we take a balanced approach that while we are trying to attract and retain large employers, we are also supporting our mom and pop local economy. Blight and beautification. This is something that will come up again. Efforts around blight and beautification. Last year, a task force was created to address this. Due to some staff changes, those efforts have slowed down, but that's something this plan is addressing and wants to kickstart again to address our blight issue and improve on our beautification. Again, review with the Long Range Committee and with the Planning Commission, supporting outdoor recreation and acknowledging that that's become a major focal point. Also, an interesting comment about making sure that if we are making investments that are intended to attract tourists, that we're ensured that those will pay for themselves and pay off. and then the pursuit of professional or semi-professional sports. Any callers on economic development? As I take a sip of water from my Meet the Mountains water bottle. Housing is the next element. This covers a lot of important ground as well. Encouraging private development, just increasing our housing stock, along with maintaining and improving our existing neighborhoods. And the next three really follow under that, which includes creating more awareness of our code enforcement issues and how to address code enforcement while protecting our existing housing stock. Those really go hand in hand. And promoting home ownership. All those things are part of maintaining and improving our existing neighborhoods, while also promoting our rental stock as well. Some key points include working with our community partners. So there are a host of housing agencies. They are members of our Housing and Community Development Board, and that is an existing board that is meeting regularly and functioning, and is housed under Development Services, and this document supports those efforts. And then from a staff and a planning commission level, we need to make sure we have adequate zoning for those who are in need of housing. Rehabilitation of existing housing stock, making sure that we are serving any underserved neighborhoods, promoting revitalization of neighborhoods, protecting historic structures, identifying and utilizing financing programs for any financial assistance, streamlining our city permitting process, and that will come up again, and making sure we have adequate student housing. As far as modifications, we have included some language around diversifying the stakeholder group that is having the conversation about housing in Johnson City. Also introducing the concept of missing middle housing, which is the image that is shown here. That refers to a form of development that was prevalent in the early 1900s and is found throughout Johnson City, but is a form of development that is not as prevalent today. And so we want to encourage that the use of duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes, kind of smaller multifamily that fit in nicely with the character of our downtown neighborhoods. And that relates also to the urban residential zoning that has been mentioned. Continuing a discourse around housing and making sure that the community development partners and the home builders and service providers are all working together to develop solutions. And then how can the city help? How can we either get out of the way regulatorily or reduce fees that help our housing providers? Again, blight beautification, the idea of a vacant building ordinance. Vacant buildings can be a big drain on our neighborhoods and on city services, fire, police, our BDSR or code enforcement. And so that's an idea that is presented here. And then when properties go derelict, the opportunity for our housing agencies to renovate or replace that housing, we want to look for opportunities to give that option to them. So that is it for housing. Any callers? So the next element is community facilities. We have sub plans under that. The first is our school plan. The existing plan is it's not a highly detailed plan, and they've done a really good job of achieving it. It mainly addresses capacity and having an optimal size for our schools, making sure that we retain space for art, music, guidance, that we're meeting and exceeding our state standards, providing safe and efficient education that is equal and fair, that our school siting policies are also in line with our land use policies that promote infill, that we're being efficient with the joint use of our school facilities and our parks and recreation facilities, and that there's a plan, a phased plan for renovating and expanding schools. And like I said, this picture here shows an expansion at Southside Elementary. The school district is doing well in implementing their plan, and we would have an opportunity to go into a much more detailed, longer range plan for schools as part of the rewriting of our comprehensive plan in a few years. The next community facilities topic is for Parks and Recreation. It covers level of service, providing cost-effective design, quality, operation, and maintenance, meeting the needs and accessibility for all, providing new facilities, rehabilitating existing facilities, providing programs along with those facilities, ensuring safety, meeting the needs of changing population, and encouraging public-private partnership. Some of the key points include review and having measurable goals, making sure that there are connections from residential areas to our parks, defining the different types of parks. Again, just like our bicycle or sidewalk or street networks, there are various scales that includes neighborhood parks that are 1 to 5 acres, community parks, which are 30 to 50 acres, and district parks that are 50 plus acres, along with natural resource areas. And combined, that really creates our park system. That includes historic sites like Tipton Haynes, sports complex, fields, and linear parks like the Tweetsie Trail. The Parks and Recreation department is always achieving accreditation, meeting codes, and a standard design. That's all about achieving quality. There's language about user fees, making sure we offset the cost for programming and that programming is family oriented. There's a goal to eliminate unsafe conditions, utilizing our existing Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which is a well-utilized board, and utilizing partnerships as well, such as what was seen with the Tannery Knobs project. A few modifications include capitalize on existing assets. So our outdoor recreation efforts, we've got Buffalo Mountain, Winged Deer, Tannery Knobs, just utilizing those assets to promote outdoor recreation. Protecting our ridgelines and creeks, as mentioned earlier, that again, that falls under several elements here. And then how are we measuring the parks and recreation services, the proximity that these parks are in relation to our population, the number of people per square mile. So we want to fine tune that formula to make sure that we're providing the best service possible, and then concentrate efforts in areas that are underserved that may not be in close proximity to a park. The fire plan, this plan was actually originally was not adopted. It was the one element that was not adopted by the City Commission initially. So we've added some language about the accreditation efforts and annual compliance review and 5-year updates to accreditation, the excellent insurance rating, and documenting the need to do a full-scale rewrite as part of the next comprehensive plan, and making sure that that plan is adopted by the City Commission at that time. And the planning department or planning division will be working hand in hand with our fire department to achieve those goals. Next, under community facilities, is our public facilities. So our any public buildings, library, Freedom Hall, our water sewer treatment plants, solid waste, Iris Glen, all those topics are covered under this. So the goal is to provide effective and efficient facilities and service, cooperate regionally, protect the environment, provide high quality water sewer utilities, continually make upgrades to the infrastructure, and make sure we have good access and are meeting ADA standards. Some of the key points around facilities is that Johnson City wants to be the regional center for social, cultural, and quality entertainment. We need to provide innovative and sustainable solid waste solutions. Water and sewer extensions need to be coordinated with our land use plans and goals, that we review the rate system, cooperate with our neighbors, and then prioritize any extensions that take place. Stormwater, continuing to implement best practices as it relates to floodplain management. Under police, got a goal to continue to utilize technology, continue their accreditation, which they have achieved and continue to work on, that provides high standards and accountability. Under our library, again, utilizing technology, adapting to changing needs, focusing on our youth, and then providing a facility for education and public meetings. A few proposed modifications for this sub-plan include partnership with ETSU, continuing that. There's a very strong partnership between the city and ETSU with facilities. Solid waste, addressing any noxious odors, water and sewer, again, reporting to the Long Range Committee of the Planning Commission and providing accurate data and mapping. And then under stormwater, being more specific about erosion control efforts and protecting our creeks or riparian corridors. Any callers? Okay, moving on to downtown revitalization. Number of topics covered, including the need for a mix of uses and providing a unique experience in our downtown. This is the one area of the city where you will find people that are dwelling, working, shopping, dining, going to church, worshiping, and so all that's found in one location, which is unique. The zoning district that regulates that continue to be refined. That's our B2 zoning district. There's a lot of information about providing a quality built environment, and that includes signage, lighting, landscaping, public art, underground utilities, and things like our Founders Park and King Commons. In addition to the public built environment, you also have the private built environment, which establishes a scale. And so we want to maintain that scale that exists in downtown now. We need to address public parking. It's covered in this. It addresses safety, the renovation of existing buildings, continued support for JCDA and their efforts around economic development in downtown, improving stormwater. A lot of that has been achieved. Pursuing grants, again, infill development mentioned again, and then high quality events and communicating with stakeholders, specifically the residents of downtown. Some proposed modifications. The plan as it was written served as kind of a smaller wayfinding plan. And so with the city has a brand new wayfinding plan. And so any of the language that related to wayfinding has been replaced by our new wayfinding signage plan. We're also proposing that a professional parking study take place so we can optimize our existing parking and determine any needs for additional parking. We're also promoting the safe connections to our existing parking facilities. We reference a provision for first floor residential that has already taken place. We've modified our zoning code to allow some first floor residential as long as our storefronts are maintained. Also want to protect the visual appearance of downtown through enforcing our small cell antenna ordinance. We want to encourage public art. There's been a proliferation of public art downtown. It's great to see. We also address safety, not only through providing law enforcement, but also through encouraging and continuing to grow the vibrancy and activity in downtown, which will then kind of help self-police, that idea of eyes on the street. There's a provision in here for converting Main Street or Main and Market to brick streets. Those streets are lined with brick underneath the asphalt. And so there's kind of a push to return to that if feasible. Locating City Hall downtown to put a daytime population and elected officials and appointed officials populating in downtown would help draw more attention to downtown. Continued support for historic zoning. I'm the liaison to the Historic Zoning Commission, and that group is doing great work, and we are well supported. And we've addressed and updated some of the language around incentives, specifically around the TIF and the TIF funds that's available to help support redevelopment, and then any federal tax credits. So moving on to historic preservation. One of the topics covered includes establishing a database and an inventory of all of our resources, and putting forth a list of properties that should be nominated to be on the National Register. Different strategies for increasing awareness around historic preservation, continued coordination with JCDA as it pertains to downtown, and then also coordinating with our historic neighborhoods that are surrounding all of downtown. Some of the key points or modifications include establishing a merit award for projects that are done on an annual basis, that private projects that exemplify the highest standards and reflect well on the Historic Zoning Commission's efforts to implement our design guidelines, as shown here, this before and after that's shown on this slide. And then the addition of some additional areas of interest or properties for potential marker locations, or inclusion on the National Register, or protection through local zoning. We've added a few sites there. So that is the end of the elements. We've gone through all 13, touched base on all 13. As I mentioned earlier, we also developed some overarching themes and emerging topics. So where we saw a recurring issue or a topic that had a lot of potential, but maybe had not been made a priority. Any gaps that we identified, all those things, we made a list of those items and categorize them as either overarching themes or emerging topics. And we want to utilize this list to begin to put focus on these items so that they help us move forward towards the comprehensive plan rewrite that will be coming up in a few years. And so just to dive in on that, one of the main ones you've heard through the presentation is the review, ongoing review of these policies and recommendations. Are we achieving these things? And so the Long Range Planning Committee of the Regional Planning Commission would be spearheading that effort to put more focus on the review to make sure we are developing and tracking measurable outcomes. And then the structure of the Planning Commission, we're adding more structure to have retreats, which would be set up to set goals on an annual basis and then continue to review goals. The next item is community engagement. And so and neighborhood planning, we mentioned that throughout the presentation, that is found in several of our elements. And so we see this as something that was called for when these elements were originally adopted. And we also see it as something that's needs to be made a priority as we go forward to a comprehensive plan rewrite. If we're engaging our public more thoroughly and making that a priority over the next few years, then that gives us an opportunity, a conduit to plug right into when we go to develop a vision for the future of Johnson City from 2025 to 2040. And so we want to begin that process now and make sure that we are focusing on some key themes that relate to small areas and neighborhoods throughout Johnson City. The next overarching theme is public health, that intersection of urban planning and public health. There are some great toolkits out there that set best practices as it relates to this, especially from APA, American Planning Association. So we'll be utilizing those best practices. We also have the social distancing in public spaces that has emerged during this pandemic. And as always, creating a built environment that helps promote healthy, active lifestyles. So those are key topics that we want to focus on. The next, and this was mentioned in the presentation as well, is this idea of having quality public rights of way that are safe for all users, that would complement good quality private development. And so this would be kind of a combination between providing complete streets, which facilitate walkable, bikeable environments, and well-connected nodes where residential areas can easily connect to commercial areas. Folks could walk down to the shop or bike to work after they leave a development that's also been built in a way that creates an environment that's conducive to that type of activity. The example shown here shows what looks like a kind of conventional shopping center, and then a design where the parking is limited to the interior and the structures are pushed to the edges of the street. When you have this type of development, then it creates a more comfortable environment for walking and prioritizes people over cars. Moving into our emerging topics, so continue with transportation, we also recognize that we need to have a sustainable future that includes opportunities for charging stations and makes way for the emergence of the driverless vehicles and shared vehicles, and just recognizing that in this plan that is an important emerging topic that will need to be addressed, as well as workplace preference. As we're finding out right now, there's a major shift from working in an office place. This has been developing over time with the internet, but now with the pandemic, it's really changed everything. There's been a major shift. And so continuing to provide the high-speed broadband and supporting those efforts, and then looking how do we reuse any vacant office space. How does this affect transportation and commuting? And then are there opportunities from a land use standpoint where we can support live, work neighborhoods? So that is the end of both our review of the elements, a broad overview. Again, this is a very detailed set of documents. It is all text, no pictures. And so that is just what I would describe as, like I said, is just a brief, broad overview. And so I encourage everyone to go to the website. On the website, you will find links to each of those elements and each of those topics. So if you have an interest in the Bicycle and Greenway plan, you can go click on that document and you will see all of the policies in detail that relate to achieving those topics and those goals as were presented tonight. So this is just to introduce you to the ideas, but we need you to take that next step to go to the website, look at the details, and then contact staff. And you can, my information is on that website. You can send me an email about any specific question, comment. You can find when the upcoming planning commission meetings and city commission meetings will be, and you can contact us at any time. Over the next few weeks, there's no additional meetings. That is just an opportunity from now to November 10th for the public to go to the website, review these documents, submit comments to staff. We will take those comments, we will review them, we will look for opportunities to incorporate those comments into these documents. They're not adopted, they're just proposed at this point. And so we will incorporate that feedback and present it to the Planning Commission as well as the City Commission as we move forward to adoption. At each of those, in December, when the Planning Commission meets in December, they will have a public hearing. And so if there are additional comments or concerns or questions that come up, you'll have an opportunity to speak at that public hearing. The City Commission will also have a public hearing as they go through their 3 readings to move forward to adoption. And so do we have any callers on the line? Seeing none, I will bring this to a close. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please call me. Thank you.